Hello and welcome to our number talk. Today we are looking at the expression 14 times 15. What we do in a number talk is we use mental math. That means no paper, no pencil, to try to solve this expression, and then we look at all the different ways we could have figured it out. So before we go any further, let's go ahead and do that. Pause the video, figure out 14 times 15. When you think you have your solution, unpause the video. We will look at all of the strategies together. So first, let's look at the distributive property. The distributive property is the one that lets us break apart one of the addends or one of the factors into two addends so we can get some partial products. It just makes it a little bit easier. So we're going to take our 14 times 15, and as you can see, I've got my 15. I'm just going to break it up into a 10 and a 5. So we're just going to view it as place value. Think of it like expanded form. And so instead of multiplying that 14 by the 15, I'm going to do two smaller multiplication problems. That's going to give me my partial products. So I'm going to first multiply the 14 times the 10, and that's a lot easier because it's just 14 with a 0, so 140. And then I'm going to take my 14 and I'm going to multiply that by the remaining 5. Then I'm going to add those two partial products together, and that's going to be the same as multiplying 14 times 15. So 14 times 5, that is going to be 70, because 4 times 5 is 20, and then 10 times 5 is 50. Add those two together, you've got 70. So I've got 140, I've got 70. Add those two together. Hopefully you got this answer that I just did, 210. Now there's a different way we could have used the distributive property. Instead of taking that 14 and breaking it up into 10 and 4, or that 15 and 10 and 5, which is what we just did, we could take our 14 and let's break that up in halves. Let's just do 7 and 7. So we're going to take our 15 and multiply it by 7 twice, and then just add those two together. So 15 times 7, well, that's going to be 105, because 7 times 10 is 70, 7 times 5 is 35, and add those two together. So that's what I've got, is I've got two sets of 105, and it's really just 7 times 15 plus 7 times 15, and add 105 and 105, and guess what you get? You get our same answer of 210. Now we can look at our 14 as expanded form, which is just 10 plus 4, multiply that by your 15, still using the distributive property to get our partial products. So we're going to take our 10, and we're going to multiply that by our 15, and that's going to get you 150. And then we are going to take our 4 and multiply that by 15, and that's pretty easy. That's 60. So this might be the easiest one we've done so far. 150 and 60, that's going to get us 210 again. Now another strategy we can use is called doubling and halving. This can be quite fun, because what it does is it lets us take one of our factors and cut it in half. So we're going to take our 14, and we're going to cut it in half. We're going to make it 7. So that's why we've got this gray box down here. Now, if you're going to take one of your factors and you're going to cut it in half, in order to keep a balanced expression, you need to take your other factor and double it. And that's why it's called doubling and halving. So if one of your factors is doubled, one of your factors is halved, guess what? It's a balanced expression. That's why you got two 15s up here. So 7 times 3 is 21. So 7 times 30 is 210. Look at that. That was a lot easier than some of these other ones. We could use the associative property. So the associative property is the grouping property. So this allows us to take 3 or more factors and rearrange the group. So let's take a look at our 14 times 15. I want to reimagine this 14 as 7 times 2. And I still want to multiply that by 15. So instead of taking our 14 and multiplying it by 15, I want to do 7 times 2 times 15. So I've got 3 factors now. I can use my associative property to regroup it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to shift the parentheses here. Still 7 times 2 times 15, but now I want to group my 2 times my 15 together. So you notice how I kept the same 3 factors there. I just regroup them You could do this with addition if you have 3 or more add-ins, just to change the order in which you multiply, or add if you're doing addition. So I've got 2 groups of 15. That's what I've got right here. 1, 2. So that's going to get me 30. And as you notice, I've got 7 groups of 2 groups of 15. So I'm just going to skip count by 30s, which is kind of like what we ended up doing on the doubling and halving. So 30, 60, 90, 120, 150, 180, 210. So that's 7 times this 30 gets you down to 210. Now, we could also take a look at our 15 in a new way. Instead of breaking up the 14, let's break up the 15. And so let's take a look at it. And let's say that 15 is really, you know what? It's a 3 times 5. So I'm going to take my associative property and I'm just going to regroup them. So it's my 14 times 3 together. I want to take care of that first. But I really don't want 14 groups of 3. You know what I'd rather have? I'd rather have 3 groups of 14. So that's where this commutative property becomes very helpful. It's my order property. It just lets me switch the order of factors. So I want 3 groups of 14. That's easier to draw. And you know what? I want to use this commutative property one more time, just because I want 5 groups of 3 groups of 14. All right, so now I've got everything the way I want it. So here are my 3 groups of 14. 1, 2, 3. And that is 42. So I'm just going to skip count by 42s 5 times. And so I'm going to have 84, 126, 168. And then my 5 times this 42 is going to get me down to my answer of 210. So if you found another way, that is fantastic. Go ahead and drop that as a comment on the video. Teachers, if you would like a copy of the slide deck for your own use in the classroom, you can find it on my website, 5minutemath.net.